The Week 13 NBA Power Rankings continue to be a little bit weird because right now we're in the middle of the grind of the 8,000 game NBA regular season where there's another, 3-4 months before we even come close to reaching the playoffs. We haven't even reached the All-Star break, so a lot of teams are dealing with injuries. Kevin Durant is gone with injuries. Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, Steph Curry, a lot of guys at the top of these teams, at the top of the NBA, are just hurt, and it is what it is. Welcome to the NBA. And there's just no clear, this team is going to win the championship, hands down. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Kyrie Irving, these guys are all going to be, there's a lot of parity in today's NBA. There's a lot of competition in today's NBA. There's a lot of teams that are very similar in talent level. That said, there's also a lot of teams that are at the bottom of the NBA, and there's clear-cut worst teams in the NBA starting at the bottom of the tank for Victor Wembanyama tier, and it's honestly starting to turn into the tank for Scoot Henderson and Victor Wembanyama tier. And if you watch any of the tape, I think you include Amen Thompson in that tier as well. I think Amen Thompson is an absolutely special talent, sensational passer, great playmaker. He can't shoot a lick, but hopefully that'll come to him at some point. But he's 6'7", athletic as all hell, great passer, great dribbler, great playmaker. So I think you go Vic 1, Scoot 2, Amen Thompson 3, and then you can have the discussion of who do you want to take at 4? Do you want to take his brother Oscar Thompson? Do you want Keontae George? Do you want Cam Whitmore? Do you want Anthony Black? So a whole bunch of players after that, but I think the top 3 pretty much set in stone. Of course, I said that last year, and then Paul Beccaro turned out to be way better than Jabari Smith was. Anyway, in the taking for Victor Wembanyama tier, no surprises here, is the Detroit Pistons. Worst team in the NBA, just having an awful season. And the graphics are updated. I'm no longer doing the weekly records because they're starting to get a better idea of how good these teams are on a full schedule basis. So they're 11-32, minus 7.3 point differential is what I actually value pretty highly when I'm doing these power rankings, just because I think that the point differential tells a pretty clear story of how the team is actually doing. As for the Pistons, it's just rough to be a Pistons fan right now. Killian Hayes has been pretty good sometimes. He's actually really streaky. Jaden Ivey has shown some flashes here and there, but this team is just nowhere near winning basketball games. They'll play you tough. They got a whole bunch of veterans, Bohan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks, and Nerlens Noel has made a sighting. But right now, this whole season is just a complete yikes for the Detroit Pistons. Coming in ahead of them, though, is the Houston Rockets, who are coming down a spot as well, 10-30. I think they have the fewest wins in the entire NBA, and it's just a horrible team run by a horrible head coach. I'm still waiting for them to fire Stephen Silas, because right now this team's lack of development has been pretty abysmal. I think talent-wise, they're comparable to the Pacers, who are an above 500 team. They've got Jalen Green, who should be playing much better than he is. They've got Jabari Smith, who was a consensus #1 pick in last year's draft. They've got Kevin Porter Jr., who's a good player. Alperen Sengun has been playing much better than expected. Tari Eason has shown flashes. Josh Christopher, Ty Washington, they have a lot of talent on this team, and Stephen Silas has done a horrible job at letting these guys blossom, grow to their potential. And even Austin Rivers is coming out and saying these guys need to learn how to play basketball the right way, because they're just not doing it correctly. They have the talent. They're collecting and stockpiling assets and talent like everybody wants to do in a rebuild. But man, they're just not doing a good job at translating that into good basketball. So I'm waiting for them to fire Stephen Silas. So at this point, you probably want to complete the tank job and then try again in next off season. One spot ahead of them, jumping up, is the Charlotte Hornets, who are pretty embarrassing to be down here in this tier because they're trying to win, while other teams like the Magic, like the Rockets and Pistons and Spurs are saying, all right, let's collect as much talent as we can, get as many tank jobs as we can, get as many draft picks as we can. The Hornets are trying to win, and they're 11-30. It's sad. I don't know how else to describe it other than if they didn't have LaMelo Ball, imagine how much worse this team would be. Spurs are coming in one spot ahead of them, 13-27. They just continue to play teams tough, all thanks to Greg Popovich. A little funny though, they've got clear at far and ahead the worst point differential in the league, despite the fact that they have 3 more wins over the Pistons and Rockets. So just a testament to that rough stretch of games that the Spurs had. And then one spot ahead of them, leading this tier, is the Orlando Magic. A little bit disappointing. I thought they were out of this tier. I thought they were much better than the Wizards and the Bulls, but they've just been really struggling at this point. Paulo Banchero stopped wearing dreads, and yeah, they've just been frankly underwhelming, because it looked like as they were playing teams competitive like the Warriors, like the Celtics, that they kind of turned the corner and they said, you know what, maybe we're going to compete for the playoffs, and they just haven't gotten to that point. So the next tier above the Magic is going to be the tier of, we'll call it disappointing teams. There's a few teams in here that are rebuilding, so they're not disappointments, but overall this tier is teams that are underperforming expectations under 500, just not very impressive at this point in the season. Starting with the Wizards, just the streakiest team in the world. They're going to win 4 games in a row, and then they're going to lose 5 games in a row. Kristaps Porzingis is going to look like an all-star, and then Kyle Kuzma is going to take 30 shots, and they're going to be blown out. It's tough to be a Wizards fan. It's the same thing as I've been saying for the entirety of the season. They need to blow it up. They need to pick a direction to go into because right now they're not competing for shit. 1 spot ahead of them is the Raptors, going to come down 4 spots as well. They're just having a really rough stretch of games. Fred VanVleet has been really bad this season, although he's been pretty good in the last few games, and he's brought a lot to the Raptors squad over the years, so fans can't really hate him. Same thing as Pascal Siakam, but they should be on the trade block because right now the Raptors, as presently constructed, aren't going to win a championship unless they get another Kawhi, which is pretty rare. They were really lucky to have that happen, and even then, they brought in this ridiculous collection of talent with Kyle Lowry still being there, Marc Gasol. I think they brought in Serge Ibaka. That Raptors squad that won the championship was ridiculously deep and talented and just at the tail ends of their prime. This team just isn't going to win. You have to give Pascal Siakam money. He's going to need to get paid. Is he worth the Supermax? Because he's going to be comparable in price to a Luka Doncic, and I don't think he puts your team over the top. The rest of the team, as presently constructed, just ain't it. Malachi Flynn, Scotty Barnes for his Rookie of the Year campaign hasn't been great. OG Anunoby is a very good, serviceable 3-and-D small forward, but beyond that, he's not going to put your team over the top. And what, are you going to rely on Christian Koloko and Kem Birch? It's just the Raptors at a rough stretch in this season do have a very solid 0.0 point differential despite the losing record. And coming down 5 more spots as well is the Utah Jazz. Shout out Ochai Agbaji. He was one of my guys coming out of the draft, and he's been balling out, just a great 2-way player for them. But overall, they're just starting to come down. That magic is wearing off. Jordan Clarkson has been in a rut for, it feels like, weeks now. And the rest of the team just they don't have that magic that they had at the start of the season. And look, this team, roster-wise, is probably in this tier below them with the Spurs and the Magic. They're one of the worst roster-wise talent teams in the league, but they just playing above their expectations. Lauri Markkanen, as everybody knows, is playing at an all-star level. Malik Beasley, one of the best 3-point shooters in the game. Kelly Olynyk, Mike Conley just doing veteran things. So theoretically, I guess this is where the Jazz belong, but they've just been on a really rough stretch of games at this point. 1 spot ahead of them is the Oklahoma City Thunder. And like I said, they don't really belong in the disappointing tier because they're not a disappointing team. They've been playing actually really good basketball recently, beating teams that they shouldn't have. But they are in this tier because their record is 18-22, where welcome to the NBA. You blow out the best team in the league by 50 points, and then you lose to the Magic. So they're still struggling to find their consistency. I'm still saying without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this team, it is an abomination. They're really just so lucky that SGA has been balling out and is playing at an all-NBA level, because outside of that, I don't like anything going on with this roster. But the Thunder are playing really good basketball right now, so shout out them. Shout out Jalen Williams. Yet again, he's just continuing to be, at the very least, if not Rookie of the Year for the Western Conference, he should be on the all-rookie first team. And we'll see. Josh Giddey, we'll see. Lou Dort, we'll see. Mark Dagnall, a lot of we'll see on this young Thunder squad. 1 spot ahead of them is the Atlanta Hawks, and they are in a weird place right now. 19-21, lost to the Lakers a couple times. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. The Hawks kind of feel similar to the Wizards in that they went all in on this slightly above average player, and now they're paying the price for that. When they beat who did they beat? They just played somebody really tough. Yeah, they beat the Clippers 112-108, and that was that classic game where DeAndre Hunter was locked down on defense. Onyeka Okongwu filling in for Clint Capella was locked down on defense. Trae Young was just clutch, making floaters and alley-oops in the 4th quarter when they needed a bucket, and that was the formula that we saw for success that took them to the Eastern Conference Finals. So it feels like, theoretically, the Hawks have that formula to win, but they just don't have any consistency whatsoever. Trae Young will just go completely south. John Collins will give you 2 points in 37 minutes, and then the Hawks lose another disappointing game that they should be winning, like against the Lakers twice. So that's why they're going to be falling down 2 spots. Speaking of the Lakers, they're going to be leapfrogging them. And look, I counted the Lakers out when Anthony Davis went out. Anthony Davis was playing at an all-NBA level. And LeBron James, I guess, was recovering from some sort of lower body injury. Now LeBron James is playing at an all-NBA level. And this is the thing about the Lakers. Theoretically, they have the top-end talent to be a really good, really competitive team. So they're going to jump up 5 spots. Thomas Bryant has had a resurgence. This man was awesome in Washington. He just could never stay healthy. And now he's playing even better in LA. He just feels like he's been unleashed. So hopefully he'll continue to stay healthy, continue to drop these, 25 and 12 games. I mean, he's been ridiculous. Russ has been playing okay off the bench. Lakers, though, dealing with some injuries right now. I think Austin Reeves, Lonnie Walker, of course, Anthony Davis all out as well. But they're just continuing to play good basketball, continuing to win games. Dennis Schroeder's been playing good as well. So just a good stretch of games for the Lakers. They're on like a 4 or 5 game win streak. So jumping up 5 spots here to the 20th seed in the power rankings. Ahead of them is the Chicago Bulls, jumping up 2 spots as well. Funny enough, last year they couldn't beat the good teams. They had that like 0-9 record or whatever against the top teams in the Eastern Conference. Now they're only beating the good teams. They're the win streak killers. The Bulls are just kind of a really funny team this year if you're not a Bulls fan to be watching. So they're starting to streak. All those fans saying, once Lonzo comes back, we're going to be a really good team. Bells are starting to ring. People are starting to believe in the Bulls yet again. Zach LaVine even had a couple good games. I know Zach LaVine has been so bad this year. The fact that he's been playing okay basketball makes you say, is there a chance that the Bulls make the playoffs? Because they've been really, really, frankly, awful for long stretches of this season. So it's good to see the Bulls playing a little bit better basketball as well. We know they have the theoretical talent there. DeMar DeRozan is an all-NBA caliber player. Nikola Vucevic is an all-star. We all know how Zach LaVine is. Patrick Williams is having a career year. Kobe White, great shooter off the bench. I mean, the Bulls, in theory, should at least be, a 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. The fact that they've been at the bottom, almost in the tank for Victor Wembanyama tier, is a little embarrassing, to be honest. But here we are, another team jumping up finally, 7 spots, linked through the Jimmy Butler trade, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. 20 and 21, and they're on a win streak of their own. Anthony Edwards continuing to just play great basketball. And this is the first time in a long time that I've been impressed with his game. He's taking what the defense has given him. He's driving hard to the paint, drawing fouls, making layups. I even saw him shoot mid-range jumpers. I mean, Anthony Edwards, if he actually plays, smart, is going to be a lethal player in this game. And I'm curious, though, how his offense is going to continue once Karl Anthony Towns comes back. I think Cat should be coming back in maybe this week or 1 or 2 weeks. Should be coming back from that injury soon. So that double big lineup that they were just toiling away with, really struggling with, is going to have to come back because Karl Anthony Towns is probably your best player right now, given the age of Anthony Edwards. And then Rudy Gobert, you gave up the future for. So you're going to be forced, effectively, to rock the double big lineup for at least this season. I'm wondering what that's going to do with Anthony Edwards, wondering how it's going to play with D'Angelo Russell as well. But right now, the Timberwolves look like they're figuring some things out, going to be jumping up 7 spots, finally playing some moderately impressive basketball. That does not mean, though, that they're in the next tier above, because this tier is the what the fuck is the NBA tier. There's so many teams that are right at 500 or a game below 500 that are just about as competitive. They can win on any given night. They should have championship expectations, but 1 or 2 things are going wrong. And we got to start with the Golden State Warriors, dropping down a spot. 2020, they've just been embarrassing without Steph. A lot of these losses were coming at home, and I get it. They're battered with injuries right now. Their development track is completely stalled. There's just so many question marks around every single player. Jordan Poole, stop turning the ball over. James Wiseman, stay healthy and play basketball. Jonathan Kuminga in a walking boot. Moses Moody, not even earning minutes anymore. Klay Thompson, sore knee. Draymond Green likes punching people. I mean, every single player top to bottom on this roster has question marks. And welcome to the NBA. This isn't your average Golden State Warriors team, which is why last year's mostly dominant championship experience was so impressive. They didn't have a KD anymore. They didn't have a prime Draymond Green. Klay Thompson was 1/3 of the guy that we're used to considering his defense pre and post injuries, and Steph carried them to the championship over pretty much a more talented Celtics squad. So this Warriors squad, top to bottom, just question marks. Steph Curry's still going to be out for a little while as well. Just a rough, brutal stretch of games where Jordan Poole has been getting exposed. Coming in ahead of the Warriors is the Blazers, and their bench is really awful right now. I think last game they scored 3 points off the bench, and that was just a Shaedon Sharpe jumper, but they're dealing with so many injuries. Like, this is the theme of the Week 13 Power Rankings. Every team is dealing with injuries. Right now, they still don't have Gary Payton Jr., who was their big free agent acquisition. They don't have Nasir Little. They don't have Justice Winslow, and their bench is Drew Eubanks, yikes, and they don't have a point guard, and a bunch of young athletic guys like Greg Brown, Keon Johnson, Shaedon Sharpe, Trendon Watford, Jabari Walker. Good to have, fun to have on those back-to-backs when you need some energy, but theoretically, The Blazers are trying to win a championship right now, and those guys aren't the answer. They need to go out and get some veteran depth. Go out and get an OG and an OB on your team. Go out and get who's available right now. Probably not Sadiq Bey. That wouldn't be a good move. But get a Bojan Bogdanovic. Get some bona fide bucket getters on your team. So when Damian Lillard is out, the team doesn't look like an embarrassment. Anyway, they're going to be falling down 2 spots as well. Just continuing to play bad basketball. Talking about bad basketball, 1 spot ahead of them is the Phoenix Suns. And look, I warned you this was going to happen. They were the #1 team when healthy, starting the season in the Western Conference. Then Chris Paul's out with injuries. Then Campaign is out with injuries. Then DeAndre Ayton struggles. And then Devin Booker goes out. And it's clear to see now Devin Booker is the best player. He's the engine of the Phoenix Suns offense. Their playmaking is absolutely abysmal right now because Chris Paul is washed. And they're just going to continue to lose games. They're going to continue to drop until Devin Booker comes back fully healthy. Unfortunate. It is what it is. This team just isn't talented enough. And Monty Williams is making some head-scratching coaching decisions as well. Dwayne Washington looks to be like the only other playmaker or scorer on this team. Mikal Bridges feels like he's regressed. They still haven't figured out the Drake Crowder situation. Cam Johnson is still out with injuries, so just going to be another probably month before the Suns even get good again. Coming in ahead of them, finally jumping up 3 spots, once again over 500, is the Miami Heat. And they're just over 500, under 500, just hovering around this record team. And every game they play is just super close, coming down to the final minutes. Execute on one end, execute on the other. Maybe get a call going your way. Maybe you don't. It seems like Jimmy Butler may have gotten fouled for that final shot. Who knows? This is just how the team is. They're about a 500 team. They didn't make any moves to really put their team over the top. They lost their power forward in PJ Tucker and are basically trying to replace him with Cody, Caleb Martin, whichever the Martin twins they have. Not much more to say about them. They need to make a move at this trade deadline or this season is going to be basically lost and it's another year of Jimmy Butler's prime that is down the drain. He's going to be, I think, 35 years old soon. And you're going to have to start going in another direction and hope that Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo are those dudes. Pacers coming in 2 spots ahead of them, just a much better record. 23-18, continuing to play good basketball. Tyrese Halliburton continuing to ball out. Ben Matherin's been great. Miles Turner, whoo, boy, I see why everybody wants to trade for him now. When Miles Turner is healthy, he is a dog. I love watching his game. I love that he's just so aggressive defensively, can shoot from deep offensively. Miles Turner is just a great player that every team should want to have as their center. But for now, until he gets traded or a contract extension, he is an Indiana Pacer and they are playing great basketball. Hats off to Rick Carlisle just coaching this team up. Unlike the Houston Rockets, who honestly, I think talent-wise, they're pretty comparable. You know, they got their veterans, Eric Gordon. I think this all comes down to coaching, is getting these guys to play the right form of basketball. The Rockets are not. The Pacers certainly are. 1 spot ahead of them is the Los Angeles Clippers, and I can't place these Clippers anywhere other than here at 12th. They don't treat the regular season the same as other teams. They don't care if they win or if they lose. All they're trying to do right now is get their guys healthy, maybe get a little bit of chemistry, and around March is when they're going to start actually trying to win games, because until then, they're just going to keep their heads above water, stay around 500, they'll go on a win streak, they'll go on a losing streak. Kawhi Leonard will play, Paul George won't play. Then Paul George will play, Kawhi Leonard won't play. And then the rest of their team sits and they get a whole bunch of guys out of the G League, the Agua Caliente Clippers, to come in and play for them. So I don't really know what to say about the Clippers regular season. It's hard to describe the game of basketball that they're playing right now. They play really ugly. Their offense is horrible. Their effort is a meh. And some of these Ty Lue rotations are head scratching. And I personally have been calling Ty Lue the best head coach in the game just because of how he handles egos, because Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are probably 2 of the most volatile players to have on your team outside of a LeBron. But man, some of these games and rotations and rosters that they're playing are just head scratching. It's getting harder and harder to defend him when this Clippers team continues to underperform. But once again, it is the regular season. Who knows what's going to happen come March, come April, come May, when the games actually matter. 1 spot ahead of them is the Sacramento Kings. Thought about dropping them more. They've been in a rough stretch of games. And look, their roster isn't as good as I was rating it earlier in the season. Harrison Barnes will always be a kind of B- caliber player. Keegan Murray is Harrison Barnes 2.0. Domantas Sabonis has been pretty okay this season, but the depth outside of Malik Monk is unreliable at best. But I'll be damned if De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter aren't some of the most clutch players in the NBA this season. When you need a bucket, they will get it. I don't know if I can count on the rest of the team to make moves. And then when the referees screw the Kings over, because that's what refs do, they're going to lose a couple games that they shouldn't. So 11 feels about right for the Sacramento Kings, dropping down one spot because the New York Knicks are just continuing to play good basketball, and it is all thanks to Jalen Brunson. I think everybody, myself included, underappreciated how good Jalen Brunson is. Maybe he was held under the thumb of Luka Doncic too long, but Jalen Brunson just continuing to ball out, having a career season, and when he balls out, when he is their number one, that means Julius Randle doesn't have to overextend himself. He can play his brand of basketball. He can be the Robin instead of Batman, and that is the perfect role for Julius Randle because he's not that good when he's the number one, but he's damn good when he's the number two, and they're just playing really good basketball right now in the early stretches of December and January. One spot ahead of them is the Dallas Mavericks, not going to move at all. Just seeing this team play without Luka only elevates how bad their play calling is, how bad their roster is, but when Luka is there, they're a very good team. Obviously 23-18, having not a great season, but you can certainly see that they have the capacity to compete. Christian Wood has been a great addition, as we all knew it would be. Spencer Dinwiddie has been hit and miss. The rest of the roster is fine. I think they need a better head coach, and I think they need to make one move at this trade deadline to truly compete, because that's why I don't have them in this tier of championship caliber teams, starting with the Milwaukee Bucks, who, yikes, they've just been in a rut, losing games that they shouldn't. Chris Middleton's still out. Drew Holiday in and out of the roster. Giannis still can't shoot, and the rest of the team isn't great because you don't want to rely on Grayson Allen and Bobby Portis to go get you a bucket in the fourth quarter. Giannis can't shoot. Gonna fall down 4 spots. I expect them to pick it back up once everybody is healthy, but they're just in that stretch of the season that it feels like every single team is in. Philadelphia 76ers gonna jump up a spot, mostly because the Bucks are falling down. Joel Embiid's been out with injury, but Tyrese Maxey is finally healthy now, so going to be a fun team. Not great, not awful. Fire Doc Rivers. One spot ahead of them is the New Orleans Pelicans, and I played with dropping them down because Brandon Ingram is still out. Who knows what the hell is happening with his toes? There's some report where he's got really hideous toes because he used to play in horrible basketball shoes as a kid, so they're all funky and disheveled and they look like Shaq feet. And then Zion Williamson is going to be out for a couple weeks with like a calf strain. I mean, this has always been the MO of the Pelicans. Can their superstars stay healthy? And the short answer is no. Zeke Naji has been playing pretty well for them. The team is going to continue to play tough. They were number one in the Western Conference not too long ago, so I'm not going to drop them down too much. But man, you're just not going to go far when your best players aren't healthy. Look at the LA Clippers. One spot ahead of them is the Memphis Grizzlies, and I toyed with jumping them up a little bit more. They've kind of been the steady, underappreciated team in the Western Conference, always been right around that 1-2 seed, but I'm still not convinced. John Moran is out now for whatever Nicky Knack injury or rest or whatever he has. Desmond Bane finally back on the roster, finally playing some basketball. Not great yet, but obviously the Grizzlies need him if they're going to go on a championship run. I just need to see basically a matchup between them and the Nuggets, and that'll tell me which of these two teams is better, because one spot ahead of them is the Denver Nuggets, who are playing great basketball right now. They're getting healthy. Michael Porter Jr. back in the lineup. Of course, Jamal Murray's been balling out. Nikola Jokic is having another one of those MVP years. The problem with the Joker is that he can't play defense, and that's always going to be a huge roadblock for this team. Can the team survive Nikola Jokic's poor defense? I know he's a smart defender. I know he's puts himself in the right position. He flails his arms up, and he's always trying to get blocks and steals and play passing lanes and whatever. But if you get this man on the perimeter, it's so easy to blow by him that they always have to crash the weak side defender down, which means there's always going to be a 3-point shooter open when you put Nikola Jokic in the screening role. So Nuggets are flying high right now. I'm always going to be worried, how far can they really go with Nikola Jokic as their center? One spot ahead of them is the Cleveland Cavaliers, and a lot of people were giving me some flack for saying the Cavs were too high. I love this Cavs team, man. They've got Darius Garland, who last year was on that same tier that everybody thought Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was. Is on that same tier that everybody thought DeJounte Murray was. Darius Garland was balling the hell out without Donovan Mitchell. Donovan comes over and he takes away a lot of the touches, but Darius Garland is still playing great basketball. They got Ricky Rubio, who should be coming back from injury soon. He was balling the hell out before he went down with that ACL injury as well. They got Isaac Okoro, Caris LeVert, Chetty Osman, Kevin Love, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. and Donovan Mitchell dropping 70 points. I feel like this team top to bottom is ready to compete for a championship. Y'all forgot how good Donovan Mitchell is in the playoffs. This man was going and dropping 50 points every night. The only thing holding him back was Rudy Gobert, and look what Rudy's been doing to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I'm going to stick to my guns on this. I'm going to say the Cavs are the second or third best team in the Eastern Conference right now because I believe in Donovan Mitchell and I believe in this roster. Now, I don't know if JB Bickerstaff is the right coach. I don't know if he makes all the right in-game adjustments to win games when coaching decisions can cost you a game, can cost you a series. So that's my only concern about the Cleveland Cavaliers. But I think talent-wise, chemistry-wise, I think this team is more than good enough to win a championship, especially in this goofy season. Talking about championship teams, though, and the Brooklyn Nets are sitting here at 2. Now, we did see, I think Kevin Durant is out for 2 weeks, got a calf strain or MCL strain, whatever happened when Jimmy Butler fell on him. So he's going to be out for a little while. Going to definitely drop in the rankings. I guarantee you the Nets are going to lose some games because while their defense has been great, their offense has still been kind of similar to what the Steve Nash offense was. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, save us. And then the rest of the guys are going to get open shots off of that. So without Kevin Durant, that means Kyrie Irving has to elevate to the number one option. And we've all seen this before. Kyrie is just not a number one. The team is going to struggle. What do you expect when you don't have Kevin Durant on your team? But I think they're still going to hold up well because they play defense and that translates with and without your best player. So I assume they're probably going to go about 500 in this stretch without KD. Once he comes back, they're going to continue to fly, which means no surprises, no changes. The number one team in the NBA is still the Boston Celtics. They're just steady despite their unsteadiness right now, despite the fact that they lose these random games that they shouldn't be. They're still the best team in the NBA. Jason Tatum trying to make an MVP case, and Robert Williams is back. Whoo, Robert Williams. He is a monster on the defensive end. This dude just brings energy and intensity every single night. That is going to do it for this week's Power Rankings. Let me know what your thoughts are, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I'll catch you in the next one.